fun having a little intro, but it's
All right, recording. What's up,
awesome,
everyone?
awesome.
We are here with Matthew McClure, dear friend
Hey, hey.
and client, musician, and badass. What's up, man? It's good to have you on the podcast. And I just wanted to pick your brain. We've been training for a little while, and I've known you for a long time, many, many years. How long have I
Yeah.
known you for? How many years?
Oh my gosh. I think, God, I mean, something in the teens now. It's in the teens.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It is a long time, maybe like 13 years or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, thanks for taking out time from your day to be on this podcast. I'm looking forward to talking and chatting. We did like a short walk and talk video, and that was cool, but it just didn't do any justice, I think, about what you really had to go through with your unique experience and why you came to me in the first place. And I really think that it's going to shed some light for a lot of people that are struggling with chronic pain problems. They don't know where to go, where to turn. I have a feeling you could really bring this to light. So I'm excited to pick your brain, man.
Well, I'm excited to talk with you about it and everyone else.
Well, cool. So just tell the people before you came to me, what happened? What was the event that led you to reach out to me? Because it's been some time since we hung out. I even saw each other.
Yeah. So, like Samir said, one of the things I do, I'm a musician. I play a lot of instruments, but on this particular occasion, I got injured being a musician on stage. I was playing drums. I did this little drum solo thing and like jumped off this riser. I was trying to be showy. I actually have footage. We should be, get someone to play it on here right now. Put the insert of me jumping and injuring myself at like 5 different camera angles, by the way. So it's pretty hilarious. But
Hmm.
Samara really broke it down to like how bad that was. It was a combination of things. Me jumping off onto a riser that had like a shake, right? So what I felt when I landed, I felt the shock go right up into my knees. It went from my toes all the way to my knees, and I had to like fall over to alleviate that feeling. So it's kind of embarrassing. I jumped down. It's like a perfect landing, but I flared my legs up, added an extra pressure going down. I was in dress shoes. I should have worn the right, dress for success, they say, and dress for the proper attire of the gig. I should have worn better shoes. I didn't think I was going to be doing this, but it was kind of improv in the moment. You know how we do things on stage as performers, right? So yeah, I just right after that, I knew something was off, and it really messed up my mobility. I had this crunchiness in my knees. I thought it was just my knees, though, was the thing. And I've been training a long time myself. I feel like I know how to work out and recover from things. I've had little injuries and stuff, so it just nothing worked. It kept being prolonged. I felt like I was getting better, but I would get injured again. A little micro, it would be like a micro tear at a weird angle from weird things. Like I was hanging off my legs off a boat on Lake Travis, and I just felt to go, ooh, like my knee like popped out of socket or something. It felt really off, right? Or running on rocks and like weird angles just would get me, and it kept happening. I couldn't get better, and it was really putting a kind of a harsh feel on my momentum because once again, like I still had a weird crunchiness in my knees, and so I just didn't know what to do. I knew like I'm not the type of person to jump into like surgery or try to go that option. I always think like there's something that you can do. I mean, to a certain degree, if I like got in a car accident, my part of my legs like the other direction and things are popping out, yeah, I think I'm gonna get surgery. But I know the body has an ability to heal itself when you do the right things. So I thought I could do that, but I was wrong. I was wrong. So what really got me dismayed though is, you have a moment where everything goes backwards again. That's basically what happened to me. I We had a backyard barbecue in my house, and so they brought over like a couple grills, and we were loading one up at the back of a truck to take it out, right? And I did a step up onto the truck with the grill with another person, and it just my left leg was like, oh my gosh, and I could just feel it. I'm like, oh no, I just knew I was gonna have a really hard time, and
Hmm.
yeah, so I wanted to be hiking, and I was actually going to do a Hawaii trip at the end of the year. So this was like September when this happened. That was going to be in December. And I'm like, I want to hike all these cool trails and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I won't be able to do that. This is like an injury all over again, like bad. And my instincts, I'm like, Samir, I'm like, he's the pro of pros of pro of pros at this point. He's been doing this so long, and I know he specifically works with like sports injuries and works with athletes. And for me, my physicality is really important to me for like a lot of levels. Like everyone else out there, like basic mobility, yeah, that's great. It sucks when you can't sit Indian style anymore comfortably, which
Hmm.
is ironic because I'm sitting Indian style comfortably right now. It's kind of funny. Yeah, little things like that, or bending your knees, or just any positions, or in doing any leg exercises. My hamstrings were shot in ways I didn't even know. Um, but anyway, yeah, so it was really bad. I decided to reach out to Samara. I'm like, can you get me on your schedule, sir? And he's like, sure. So we did a little quick session where he diagnosed me. It's really funny because he can like pinpoint any of your micro injuries or what's going on in your body just from your posture or how your movement is, just little things like he just sees it. And I'm like, he's like, you had an injury here. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, interesting. So I found his approach different than like his field is interesting because he's not just like a personal trainer. He's not like a chiropractor. He's not. There's many other fields that go into this wellness of healing the body. He's like a mix of all these practices, and it's really he understands how the mechanics of the body works like a pro. And it's really interesting what he kind of told me. Besides him working on my knee area, basically the philosophy was that it's not just your knee, it's all the way from your toes, all the way to your hips. There's all kinds of issues that one needs to address to get rid of the knee pain. I'm like, oh, that was kind of like a revelation to me. And I thought I knew a lot in the field too. I'm not an expert, clearly, but it just fascinating to see that, okay, my toes to my hips, especially the legs, is going to be very important. So we just started training very differently. I did a 2 week intensive with them, and I called it intensive for a reason because we're up there like, was it 5 or 5:30 in the morning, 5 days a week for 2 weeks in a row? Because it was intense. It was really, it was an intensive. I did that though for those 10 days, and that was crazy because going back to him doing alternative practices, another thing that Samir does, I think is really cool, but also pretty painful. Depending on where he's getting you, there's something called a gua sha blade, and it's not too sharp of a blade. It's like a dull, thick butter knife, or
Mhm.
like a really dull ice skate blade, and he's like grinding and going into like the little crevices you didn't even know you had in your body. And Samir, you can explain the process much better than me, but it helps break up like certain areas that might just be almost like calloused over in a way that you're not getting full movement and separation. And it's crazy. But I had Samir and two other pros working on me, so three people, and they were just going to town, get gua sha bladed on my legs and everywhere and stuff, and it was nuts. But I found that like I said, it was painful, but there was a lot of alleviation of things like real quick. Like he's really good at like getting instant results while you're there. Like you won't be able to do certain things that at the beginning of our sessions, and then by the end of it, you can do those things. Simple things like say I was having a hard time sitting on like the back of my heels
Mhm.
and closing that gap with my leg, right? Like we'd be able to get in that position like easy by the end of it because he'll loosen you up and hit you in spots that you wouldn't even really be thinking. A lot of other creative areas I had never really thought about before that were epiphanies to me were doing toe work. There's a lot of work that's done with the feet. It's a really creative, really interesting things you would never think to do, things you've never seen anybody else at any gym ever do before. Like you would just be weird. I mean, they even have rules against having your shoes off in most gyms. So it's like you can't even really train this way there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it gets fun, it gets challenging. He'll put me in, say if I'm doing a position, like say you're watching someone do a workout and they're doing the movement, you're like, oh, I can do that. So you do that movement, even at the same weight. There's different cues in the body to adjust to get like an even more proper form. and it gets really insane. It's like a brain workout, cueing from head to toe with your body, and then it's just little adjustments Samara's making on you, and it just takes it from like, oh, I'm feeling this, to like, oh my gosh, it just 10x that. It's so hard to do,
Mhm.
and I love that because every time we do a session, it's never the same twice. We've never had a session that's the same thing twice. We'll go over some different movements that we've done before, but he's constantly seeing where you're at and seeing where you're at day to day, because that's going to change day to day. It's going to, how you feel is going to be different. Whether that be, you could have slept awkward and now you got a crick in your neck. What's going on here? I mean, anything. You worked out and you're sore. I mean, anything could be going on. Our bodies are constant flux. And it's just cool to have someone who's a body mechanic. So I just want to stay with Samir. He's in Austin, Texas. I'm in Austin, Texas. As long as he's in Austin, if not, I would fly out to him at this point. I want to stay on his schedule because I never want to go backwards again. Because I know
Mm.
what it's like to do a little micro injury could take you back years, and it's frustrating, especially if you really care about your body, beyond like your physicality, what you do, but it's also with how you look, how you feel. Um, I think if you look and feel your best, like mentally, you're better too. Your energy's there. There's so many factors that go in there that just beyond just one thing. And so we all need a body that's working, that we feel good about, because it's the only one we got and we can't replace it. So I
Mhm.
just think all this goes to that. And I'm grateful I have completely overcome my main issue of my knees being a problem, so I don't really have that as an issue anymore, which is cool. So I'm getting to do more things that I wasn't able to do. Like I wasn't able to run, like I can run again. Yeah, it's exciting. I can run without stopping now. I have more like almost like more bounce in my run than I've ever had, which is really funny. It's because we did things very different with the feet work. It made me more springy, I guess, is a good way to point. It's like jumping on a trampoline almost. I'm like jumping on my toes when I'm running. It's also like a meditation too. So if your mind's there and you're cueing on some of the things, like I've been in a situation where my legs feel sore, my calves feel sore. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can run today. But when you address certain cues, like your feet position, where you're landing, your hips, like little things like that in the flow, you can actually kind of maintain it. It's like a meditation, but it's also getting your body almost more support where you can do the thing now. So I think that's another revelation I've gotten working with Samir. Little things like that, but it's really cool. It's really helped me out though.
That's awesome, man. I'm so glad that you're able to receive so much. But I want to rewind a little bit because I think it's important to understand what was really happening for you. Because a lot of folks come into this and they might look at someone in our program or may see a result and think, oh, well, they may have gotten the result because they have these certain circumstances in their life, or maybe they are further along in their movement journey, or they're more advanced than I am, or they're just a little bit stronger than I am. Now, when you started off, I remember distinctly, you showed me the video, right? I saw it happen. The knees buckled the moment you landed. And to me, it's one of those moments I was like, oh, okay. So that that caused some damage in there. So there's, the moment the impact of you landing on the floor was presented in the video, I began to think, okay, so his nerves are probably thinking, don't do anything because whatever
Yeah,
happened,
I couldn't.
just shut it down. So whenever your knee would bend, it would buckle. And as such, okay, now you used to run regularly with your partner,
I could run miles, not a problem. I felt great. That's even how I met my fiance. We met running, so it was a big deal that I couldn't run.
it's a big deal. So you couldn't do that. It affected your confidence. It affected your ability to train hard. Uh, I would not now music is so important to you. Did it affect even your level of ability to play music at all?
So I would say it affected my drumming with my legs for a bit, but I could still definitely do that. That wasn't as big of a problem. Although now I'm saying that I would take that back in terms of, since we've been doing leg training. I mentioned this to you actually our last session. I've
Yeah.
noticed a lot of my feet work. before I was thinking it was feet work, but it's going all the way to my hips once again. So I'm getting a lot more power that I had. I could do all this stuff before, but now, like, my hands are, there's a certain technicality from playing drums my whole life, and there's certain rudiments in drums and certain things in my mind that it's harder to translate to your legs as fast. I can do it maybe slower, more controlled, and there's certain things I can do at certain tempos, but with my legs opening up more, I feel like that mind body connection is able to do even more. And I feel like I'm like,
Cool.
that's really cool to get that even later, where I'm sure I'm really excited to see how my feet work evolve with my drums, because we're
Mhm.
doing a lot. And it's like I got four limbs going on, doing stuff all the time.
Sure.
So, and the feet, just I got the hi hat and the double bass pedal going on, and there's a lot. It's fun. So I feel like I feel recovered and maybe beyond at this point, in
That's cool.
terms of that goes. Yeah.
That's cool. And so I think that's the important part because you have so much awareness now. But when you first came in and we first started working together, it seemed like to me, and I wanted to hear from your experience, that whenever I asked you a question, hey, what do you feel here? It was so nebulous. It was hard to figure out, what am I feeling? I'm not sure what I'm feeling. How was that process in the beginning when I kept asking you questions? What do you feel? What do you feel? What do you feel? How is that from now to now where you are? Or rather, how was it then to now? Because now you're able to tell me off the bat, hey, I feel X, Y, Z. Can we work on this, Sumer? I'm like, oh, okay. You've done like all the hard work for me. All I have to do is come in and execute. So if you could explain to the people, what was it like in the beginning with your own body awareness, the mind body connection before to now where it
I
is?
think I think not to go on a tangent, but I want to bring the gouache blade into to up front on this, because before, I was thinking the pain was in the knees, say at the beginning, right?
Right.
I knew everything was weak, like my hamstrings were weak. I had to use these poles to do this move called a Ziza. It's like a backwards
Right.
lunge, similar to that. It's interesting, but I had no hamstrings. It was that bad. But going into your question about like what it felt, everything felt crunchy. It felt like I couldn't get full range of motion with my leg. So I would feel pain in different ways. The main thing that my awareness, how it grew, is that once you said it wasn't just the knee, it's other areas. And once you started putting those gouache blades on me, you would get to areas you would feel like you wouldn't know you had like soreness there. You wouldn't know you didn't have openness there. You didn't know that was tight. There's one area in my hips that I'm like, oh my gosh, it's got to be sore for everybody. There's just like, it's almost like a pressure point. It's so bad. And you
Mm.
guys like dig into these spots, and it helps alleviate and it helps loosen that area up. And I felt a lot of relief. But now once I got into that, I was able to start seeing these spots, these smaller spots that I didn't notice before. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And once again, you taught me, whether it be the knee or anywhere else, even in the arm. Like, I had this one issue here because I was at the gym, and I kind of went through this one movement with too much weight at a weird angle,
Mm.
and it just I felt it. So it set me back a little bit, just even in our sessions, just. And once again, you're going all the way up here, or even all the way to my shoulder, just working on things, because it wasn't just this area. That's part of it, that might where I felt it, but there's support going all the way up and down. So once again, these are huge revelations. We don't assume, we assume, like, almost from like if you work out a lot, like this is a chest exercise, so you're automatically isolating parts of the body when there's a holistic part of it. It's not just a chest exercise. You're putting your shoulders into it. You gotta probably put your triceps into it. And if you're really doing, you're probably putting your lats into it too. And then you're putting your feet on the ground. So there's stability going there. And if you're really doing things, any exercise, you should have your feet pressed to the ground. You're going all the way, thinking up from your legs all the way up, and it really create a lot of support there. Get your glutes and them on. And like you even talked about tucking your hips as another cue to have going up, and obviously keep your core tight and your lats on. You start going all the way up the chain, and now you almost are ready to probably lift more because you're using your whole body into it. Like, you
Mm.
might think of a chest exercise, not use your lats, but that is a huge component of it. So I think these are all huge revelations that
Yeah.
I hope you're taking it because they were breakthroughs for me. And I've been working out for like I think 24 years, basically a long time. Most of my life. I started when I was young because I knew I wanted to be in shape, And
Mhm.
so anyone at any rate, like I feel like I know millions of exercises. We do new ones I've never done all the time. So it's it's something you can never stop. They say if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's true with anything. Say you don't do something for a really long time, you're probably not going to be as good or consistent or on the money with it as you would if you were doing it on a regular basis as a part of a routine, right? So I think it's huge with anything. So I know we have one body, we gotta make it work. And this is one of the best ways to do things. You just
Yeah.
adjust your training. I think especially with toe work's huge, and I think that wash a blade is really important too because it's a way to break up the areas that are just kinked up in your body. um, Go out and get one. I recommend it. And then
Yeah.
you need a whole toe program, man, just like a whole just toe work. Everybody like, what are you toe work, what is this, a foot
It-
fetish? What's going on here?
yeah, well, it's remarkable to hear your level of awareness of your body now, even the way you spoke about the connection of lat, glute, hamstring. This is not always common knowledge. It's not to the level of the way you're able to explain it. They may see snippets of it on TikTok or Instagram, but for you or any of my clients to explain it the way you have, like, oh, there's a connection. I feel this, and it can change the way my joints feel if I connect these muscles. That's really special because now you have taken a whole new skill set of learning how to move your body, connect your body, and feel the right thing and apply it to your life outside of you coming in to see me, because now you have it for the rest of your life. So, how has that been outside the gym? Like when you leave here and you go out into your everyday life and you're doing your thing. What has it been like now to have that skill of knowing what to feel, where to feel in terms of your knees, in terms of your hips, your whole body? How's that been?
I want to say this with there's like three layers I want to say on this. It's
Sure.
funny. Well, I'll start with the first. I feel better. I feel good. I feel just as good as I was before I was injured. So that was the goal. I wanted to feel like I could do the things I wanted to do because I want to live a physical, fun life, right?
Yep.
Go hiking, go out to the lake, go enjoy the world. I don't want to be like, I can't move, I hurt, ouch. So I don't have the pain like it did. One of the major things I also subtly mentioned it before.
I think Matt is frozen for a second.
Here, okay, so that's
Yeah.
that. I think it'll go back.
There it is.
Gene, look at
Oh,
you.
look at that.
You're a Zoom pro. All right, we're
Okay,
back in business.
we're back. You were talking about you having physicality back. You feel better. Go ahead.
So what I was saying, yeah, I feel better. The next thing was foot position. That's what I was getting into, and we got disconnected. So if you look around, 99.99% of people walk like this to some degree, right? And you were talking how that actually body from a body mechanic standpoint is actually not good. And I'm like, interesting. So either walk parallel or slightly inward. And I've noticed that that's one of the big cues with me running, but just walking, it's helpful too. And I think that's the one of the biggest things just that I'm like hyper aware of now. Like I'm either walking parallel or just slightly like that. And now I feel like it's I would hope so that it's more of an unconscious competence at this point that I'm aware. I'm unaware I'm naturally doing it now to some degree. I'm definitely not doing this, and I don't think I was really doing it like crazy, but everyone naturally just check yourself, watch it. But we've trained where I know every position I pretty much need to be like this almost every time we're doing anything with legs. I'm just slightly inward. So it's just a natural cue for me to focus on, especially think about when I'm running and bounce on the toes and working with my hips and just even the flow of my arms, my lats, just, there's a certain, we actually have done a lot of creative, fun exercises just for getting the flow of the run, and how, Samara, if you want to explain how your body's kind of like an X, where your right leg is going up all the way to your left arm essentially, and vice versa, and then you're doing the opposite motion when you're running, but it's connected. So there's something to be said about that. I would love for you to maybe actually go on about that for a second, because I think that's really cool when you explain that to me.
Yeah, for sure. With the body, you have fascia that runs through the entire system, and fascia is just connective tissue. All that white stuff you see on an anatomy chart is fascial tissue, and it's connective tissue. And its job is to help you sense stretch, contraction, and change in all sorts of parts of the body. So these lines of fascia, they travel in specific, interesting patterns. So you have some fascia that goes from your neck all the way down to the front part of your body, down to the inner part of your groin, to your foot. You have some fascia that goes from your hip to the opposite shoulder. And you have some that goes from your wrist or your thumb all the way to the opposite side of your shoulder blade. They all travel in unique lines. And that strip of line that goes from one part of your body to the other often indicates that if you feel something change down somewhere on your foot, if it's along the same line, that fascial line, something up that line will change too, because it's all the muscles are underneath that same fascial tissue, and it can sense that something is changing. The stretch or the contraction is changing one part of the body. Now, one of the important lines of fascia that we see with running is this crossbody line that goes from one shoulder to the opposite hip. There's a front line, there's a back line too, from the opposite shoulder to the back of the hip as well. As such, when we begin to have, say, I don't know, say we're tight in one part of your body, like your right lat's tight, that's going to affect your opposite hip. Your opposite hip's ability to flex up or extend, for that matter. So it's not just the knee or the hip or the glute or whatever it is, it's how possibly one part of the chain, the fascial chain, is affecting the other. And as such, it causes these deficits, or it causes these weird compensations that begin to happen when we run, when we walk. Walking is a bipedal and opposing motion kind of basic pattern. And if we can't even do that right, then running is going to be really difficult too. So yeah, what Matt's alluding to is that everything happens in these interesting lines, and they're all communicating with each other constantly. Hence why I even brought it up with Matt about having mind-body awareness and how that's changed so much for him, because the more development of this he's had, he's able to articulate what's going on in his body. He's able to make the correction, cue better, and oftentimes handle it by himself before he comes in here. Then we give him the next level that he can go through to go up, to keep upgrading, keep up leveling up. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I want to add to that. Also, it means I'm never really going backwards at this point. So I'm not going to get worse. I feel like I can go level up. Finally, actually, I just started tracking my workouts to the next level. I like have every workout date scheduled in advance for like the next 3 months, because I want to go to my next level. I feel my injuries are overcome, where I can lift heavier, I can push myself more. So I'm really excited to see what that is. And obviously with Samara coaching me too, it just makes it easier for me not to get injured, because I'm not putting myself in weird positions. Or if I was putting myself in a weird position, it's not with some kind of weight that would be weird in that position. Because there's all kinds of creative, I'll call them fun. It's fun when you're doing something interesting, your mind's doing something new, and it's difficult and challenging. There's something about that. And I would say it's more fun now. When I did that 2-week intensive a couple of years ago, and we were doing that, they were hard. It was difficult. I've known myself to be able to do things really well, but when your legs feel like jello and they're like soft, or like, these are supposed to be like the strongest part of your body. Like your legs can lift more than any other part of your body. They should be like, when they feel like jello, you're like, oh, and you're doing these reverse Zizas. I'm holding 2 poles. I'm like, or I'm getting gua sha bladed. And it's worse at the beginning. The gua sha blades get easier. Your body gets used to it, but also you have less to work on. I mean, I think you'll always have stuff to work on.
Yeah.
our whole lives. You're always like, it's never going to stop. Like,
100%.
it's like having a car, like something's going to have to be worked on it at some point. Your body, I mean, it's daily work. I mean, think about it, just the upkeep. Think about food, sleep, water alone.
Mhm.
That by itself, that's a lot of work and upkeep. Not to mention all the other aspects of our mind and our lives, just how we project reality and how it is. We live in a busy world. I mean, busy life. It's we need our bodies to get us through. So it might be the most important thing. I see that we spend a lot of money on cars, but we don't always spend as much money on our body and treat it as such. It's our number one asset. It's the only thing we actually kind of own if you think about it, ourselves. And I think self ownership is important. So it's the one body you got. It's the one life you got to live right here and now. It's important. So we should make the most out of it, and we got to feel our best to do so. And I want to thank you, Samara, for helping me do that, because I was going in limbo for a couple of years after my injury. And now I'm able to go forward. And now I'm like, oh, I can go to the next level. I might as well start tracking every workout a little more meticulously. Every weight, go up the next time I do chest again and back. Okay. Am I getting stronger? And I know my nutrition's good, but is everything else go? Oh, now, I'm getting better results, faster results even. Like, it's if you're injured, it's very hard to get results anywhere in your body because one part of your body is like slowing you down. It's like imagine a car with three wheels. It's probably not going to do as well with if it has four. Or it could be like a three-wheeled car. I've seen those. The wheels in the
Right.
front, you have to two in the back. But no, for the most part, it's going to be it's not going to drive so well.
Yeah.
So same with our body. If your feet are kinking you up and you feel all this knee pain and that's kinking you up, and all the way to your hips, that's kinking you up. It's gonna be hard to do all the upper body stuff too. That's gonna be kinking you up, and you have none of this ever addressed. Like I never had any of this addressed before. Like you could even see some professionals, they don't really do the work that Samara does. And I think a lot of it has to do with the movement he puts you through, but also the gua sha blade, and even doing a gua sha blade through the movements he puts you in.
Yeah.
It's certain because certain areas in your body won't be exposed unless like you change the angle, or it really depends on what you're working on. It's really custom and nuanced, which is another thing. I can see why this is hard to duplicate. It's not like I don't know, like you need to have someone who knows what they're doing so they can get to the micro nuance of your custom issue, because your body is different from everybody else's, but it's also the same. Your body's the same, but it's also different because you have your own issues going on that is different than everybody else's.
Yeah.
But because our bodies are the same, Samara can diagnose it, like a car mechanic,
Mhm.
and be like, okay, you're having this issue. Let's try it. Okay. And he's getting your feedback too. But he also can see things that you can't see. Like he can tell what's going on with you just by your posture or how you do a movement or anything. And then he can make the micro adjustments. Like you think you're doing the exercise right, but then he makes the micro adjustments and it becomes 10 times harder. You're like, oh my gosh. And it's like a brain workout. So you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then he's seeing you, having the eyes on you too. You're like, oh, I got to make sure I'm doing this right. It's nice, even for someone who like feels like they've worked out a lot and done it a gajillion times. It keeps it fresh every time. And like you got eyeballs on you, and just those micro adjustments, I think, make all the difference in the world. It just
Yeah.
so it keeps everything. It's not only a workout; it's healing your body, but it's really good for your mind at the same time,
Yeah. So,
which is your whole well-being. But
yeah. So, I mean, so when your knees started to feel better, and then as we began to challenge them more and more and more and more, and your knees started to just feel like there was no pain, I want people to really grasp how that process came about. Because when we think about this, right? And I've asked every client this question. Whenever they come on this podcast, I ask them the question too. Is at first, the first time that ever happened where you had pain relief in the knees, there's always a shock moment. How did that happen? How did the pain go away? We just did this one. The pain was just there a second ago, like literally a second ago, bro. And then all of a sudden, within the same session, there was a reduction of 45%, 50%, because I just said, hey, engage these muscles, or hey, we're going to have you engage these muscles while I release something at the same time. And then we're going to do it in 6 other positions where you're not just on the table. I'm going to release something while you engage. I'm going to release something while you engage. And as you kept engaging, it kept getting better. The pain kept getting less and less. So if you can walk us through that, because there's always a shock moment. How can you make that statement that it went down in one session? It makes no sense. We need like 6-7 months of physical therapy for this to change. So yeah, that's something that's important. I think people should hear.
I want to tie that into what you're saying about 6-7 months.
Mhm.
Like I would say it actually was probably about 6 months to go from the 100% down to like the single digit percentage.
Yes.
What would happen each session though is you'd be able to take the percent. It's like, where's the pain in that specific area? And like say I was like, it's an 8 out of 10. And then it would get down to like, maybe it's a 5 out of 10, or is it less? Or maybe it's the motion, like maybe I can't do a certain like angle or something. I can't do a full motion of a movement, but I could get in that. Maybe it's a deeper lunge. Maybe I'm bent over in this position. I can go deeper into the movement, and my flexibility goes up within the session. Or maybe by the end of it, at the beginning, maybe I couldn't do a certain weight, but now because we kind of warmed up that area or corrected some issue, I'm pressing more. Like I think little things like that. It was always like a little percentage, and you would always have me like maybe choose a position like a squat, test your squat, or walk around in between. And how does that feel? And he's making me think about it. Like, okay. He's also seeing how I am based on what he just did. Because, like I said, Samir has like another lens. You know, you have like glasses and different prescriptions. He's got another prescription where he can like see the micro things in your body of how like you're doing that squat. What's going on? Is it your right hip that's, or where's the tightness? You can kind of see what's happening, and then he'll diagnose that area or a few areas, even while I'm doing a position, and then I'll get a little percent reduction. Like I said, I'll either be able to do the position deeper or more fuller, or I do feel less pain, which is cool because I'm like, what? Because it'll kind of trip me out. I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't even make sense. And I feel like that's cool when you're consistent over time enough doing that. And now you get the full reduction you want to see, more permanent. And then, like I said, our bodies, we have to take care of them all the time anyway. So I don't want to move backwards. So I want to keep moving forward. So we do a lot of those same things. Everything's like less severe than it was. Like the gua sha blade, we'll do it, but it's not like before. My whole legs would be red, or I'd just be. And that was actually something too. The more red you get from it, the more like you kind of need it, which is funny. And I've been doing these Epsom salt baths all the time, and been trying to recover from the gua sha blade damage and the
Yeah.
soreness and everything.
The first day, it looks like you joined Fight Club, and
Yeah, one of my favorite movies. Yeah, I enjoyed Fight Club.
but then after that, now it's like a slight discoloration, maybe a bit pink, but then it returns back to where you need it to. But no, I think that's really important that people understand that in each session, it is my belief and my conviction now that I've seen this with a lot of people, that each session should have a change, a shift. It does not need to be like poof to zero. And sometimes it does happen, poof to zero. But as long as there's a shift, even within your consciousness of, oh, I'm aware of how this can change. And if that keeps happening week by week by week, then not only is your body beginning to create the different things it needs to create from a metabolic perspective, a tissue perspective, but your brain begins to understand the connection too. Oh, interesting. So my nerves need to rewire the way I think about this, because before I was thinking I need to keep looking for the pain. But
Yeah,
now I'm thinking I need to look for the engagement. I have to look for better structure, better alignment. And the more I attune my focus there on that solution, then for some reason the pain stops yelling at me. Interesting. So maybe this is how I started to think about it. And I've just seen my clients just go through it naturally. Said, well, maybe we are not our pain. Because at first
okay.
we identify hard, right? We're like, I am hurt.
Yeah,
I am injured. I am
Ooh,
in pain. I
right.
all these statements happen, and it's a lot of psychology. I catch it in my clients. And when I say, "Oh, I'm always hurt. I'm always having problems," man, but yeah, they keep looking for it. Oh, but the pain's still there. Oh, but the pain. It's like, okay, let's just direct your attention and shift it away for a second. And it has to be gentle. If I say, hey, you got to stop focusing on your pain, guess what they do? They focus more on their pain. So what I've done with even Matt, just very gently, without even being so talkative about it, I say, hey, let's focus here. Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go here. And the more he just kept going there, what I noticed was, oh, all of a sudden, the pain no longer was yelling at him. It was maybe he would still say, Samir, it happens maybe at this extreme end range, but not so much at the ones that would always happen at. So that's an insight I wanted to provide to everyone listening, is that those micro changes over each session are really important for your body to learn and understand that you have a totally different operating system than you think you were told when you were younger from potentially most doctors, other practitioners that mean really well and actually have done really good work on you. It's just that you, the person that's in your body, have to be understanding enough to want to achieve mastery of yourself. Because if I work with someone, it's a collaboration. It's never going to be a thing of I fix you. Uh, it's you can even hear it the way Matt's speaking to you in this podcast. He's speaking like he's the expert, because that's how I see my clients. They're the expert. So when they come on my podcast, that's the expert. I'm not looking for an expert. They're
That's funny. I like that. But you are the expert of your own body, because Samir can't feel my pain. I mean, he has the empathy, all the empathy in the world, but he can see what's going on too. He can also like point out things because he can feel what's going on. Because he'll discover things I didn't know just from the feel of how something is. Is it crunchy, or what's the like, there's certain things going on that once again I can't even explain, but I can feel it in my body. And it is a back and forth. It's a dialogue. So I think that's really important, because it is a custom session in terms of what's going on with you. And there's some generalities going on, but no, it's just very, very specific to
yeah,
that back and
because it's your perception too, right? How you're perceiving it is so unique than the other person that's
forth.
perceiving it. Yes, I see commonalities. Okay, knee problem, I go to your foot and your ankle. Sure, I do that for almost everyone. And we see that by doing so, it corrects a lot. However, you perceive that situation differently than the next 5 people I work with. And as such, I may have to take a slightly different approach. Their foot
Yeah.
so freaking intense. They're like, all I perceive is pain, bro. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to see this a bit differently with this person.
Everyone has something going on that's slightly different than everyone else, but the mechanics are the same. And that's huge. Another thing you were saying about the mind I thought was really powerful was you got me to think about my feet and my hips, not just my knee area. So we're focusing on that. It's like when you were saying it was like a moment when you experienced the no pain. It actually almost quite the opposite.
Hmm.
We're going to session. I'm like, wait a second, I don't, I don't feel the pain here anymore. It becomes funny because eventually over time it becomes a new norm that you almost don't realize when it happens. And I could say that's a good metaphor for other things in life too. You almost enter a new chapter. You're like, wait a second, I'm in a new chapter now. Hold on a second. It's a new act of my life. I feel good again. Hey, so it gets more exciting. So if you have any issues going on, which I think everyone does, if you don't now, you're going to at some point, especially if you aren't paying attention to it. Even I feel like now I'm training for everything all the time. So say I want to go on a ski trip next year or something, and I'm like, okay, we're going on the slopes. It's winter time, and if you aren't training for things all the time, you go on this fun trip, you get injured. You take a bajillion steps backwards, years backwards on where you were in your life. If you're older, it gets worse. So it's like you want to do fun things, but fun things have we might get injured. Um, it happens. So if you're always training to be strong in all these areas, you don't have weakness, you're the best prepped you are for any situation all the time. So I see no downside in it. And then once you get in the flow of doing things, it becomes easy. It's like, do you sleep every night? Probably. So if you just have a little session here and there, you don't have to train like a crazy person every day. You can do, it's more about like doing something targeted and like not doesn't do something under an hour, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, just anything, even like one set of one thing is good. That's something, so just doing anything, even going on a walk. But when you're going on a walk, think about your foot position, you know, how your foot's landing, your hips, little things like that. And I think those are the hardest things because no one teaches us how to do that, and most people aren't even aware of it. So I think it takes a whole nother caliber. Heck, even most personal trainers don't talk to you about that, like your own walking position. I know most doctors don't talk about that. So it's who talks about that then? And I think that's a problem because we're all having these issues that they're all feeling, but no one's talking about. And as far as like, I don't know, it's very interesting to me just to have Samara's approach because it's not one approach, it's just a combination of approaches.
Right.
And he gets real results, and I feel like that's the main thing. If like you're able to get some results, and that's really his business. And ironically, the term results, the name results, I don't know if you guys know about Samara, but years ago there's this movie. One of his clients is a film director. He ended up writing this movie, directing it, shooting it. Even stars Guy Pearce, the actor Guy Pearce. It's called Results. If you haven't seen it, I don't know, is that on Netflix right now or?
It's I believe it's on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it's on
Amazon Prime. Okay, if you haven't, go see the movie. It's funny because I guess if Samara didn't exist and his client wasn't here doing that during that time, it sparked this whole movie idea for him. He did this whole movie, and it's really funny because Guy Pearce a lot of his dialogue is very much stuff Samara would say. So it's so funny. Anyway, go check it out. Go check out Results on Amazon Prime. But it's crazy. You never know. You would have never thought doing what you're doing, like that would have been something that happened, That's crazy. That's super cool. Or other things too. Like you're training a lot of athletes. For example, you have athletes that you're training to become professionals at the top level, right? I know you have two soccer football superstars that are like, they're awesome. They're brothers. They're amazing. Raven and Cayman Littles. If you ever hear about them, you will, trust me. They're awesome. They're super cool. But then again, you're like a retired NBA player. You fly out to California and work with them all week, and you had some revelations for him, like especially the toe work and the feet work. It was like, huh, that's he felt it. He's like, this is cool, So I find that just kind of amazing where our journeys take us in life, like me getting injured got me. I see Samara all the time now. Before I wasn't getting to see him all the time, so it's really cool to have that kind of friendship because we all get so busy in life where we got to keep up with the bills and keep up working, and then we have friends, family, and you do errands on the weekend and try to have a little moment for yourself and enjoy everyone that's in your life or who's been in your life in the past. Just we don't have a lot of time, and we all have the same amount of time, right? But there's so much to do just to keep up with living that we don't always get to live at our fullest. And I find that's kind of sad. I hope everyone gets more balance or can position their life to have more balance as they as they live. I want everyone to be happy on this planet and be at peace and have life.
Yeah, no, agreed, man. I think it's funny too. It's uncanny that when the journey ends up being you returning back to yourself, how you end up connecting with other people.
Sure.
Turn back to yourself more and more and more, and you learn exactly, okay, well, this is what's going on. You end up connecting to more folks, and that's when you really take an honest look at yourself. And then that's when people come into your life and they help and they connect with you because they connect with a part of themselves when they see you go through that too. So I think that's a special thing. But I'd say I do want the people to also know this on a last note here, and that is Okay, now you're here. You're in this new space. It's been some time that you've been training. You've seen these changes over time. What are some cool things you can do now? What are some cool things that you're experiencing with movement, with life? Share it with us here, and then yeah, we'll close up.
I know I've mentioned a few things. I couldn't run. I used to be able to run. Now I can run again. So it's coming full circle
Mhm.
once again. I feel more bouncy, like I was saying before. That's huge. It helps with my stamina on a run. I can just kind of keep running. It's a kind of a meditation, or
Yeah.
not kind of, it is a meditation, but doing those cues in my day to day, I'm using those now. Like I was, like you're almost doing a living, breathing workout, almost like yoga. I hear like someone who's, you can almost do yoga all day if you have an intentional deep breath. That's
Mhm.
a steady pace,
Mhm.
steady rhythm. And there's something about that if you're doing that with your body. So, like I said, I feel good. I can do anything athletic that I could do in the past. Obviously, like I said, I'm entering a new chapter where I feel like I can lift more. So I'm lifting heavier again. I'm like intentionally lifting as heavy as I possibly can and maxing out my workouts now because I'm like, I'm ready to gain some size again. I'm like lean, you know, physically fit, but I want to pack on a little more muscle, and if you're injured, you can't do that. It's very difficult because
Mhm.
you keep going in circles. You're like, what am I even doing? And you can spend a couple of years trying to get out of the situation when you almost need to go backwards. Not to go on a tangent, but I've seen you do this with a number of athletes. You'll have them take off a whole season, a whole year from the sport
Yes.
just to start retraining their fundamentals, not even their fundamentals in their sport, but their whole body mechanics so they can do the things within their sport, the movements within their sport. So to
Right.
make sure any angle they would be experience, any force they'd be experiencing while they're playing basketball or football or soccer or baseball or you name whatever sport possible, he can customize around those activities and then making sure you're fully healed up. So you don't, the worst thing is say you are a professional athlete and you injure yourself in the game. And because you haven't worked on your feet and you have weak ankles and other things, and now you're out of the season, you're out a couple seasons, your career is over potentially, you never know. And that's devastating. Or even in my situation, I felt like if I didn't get injured, I'd probably have my physique more where I wanted it in some respects right now. But I realize that's not really the important thing. The important thing is the habit of what you're doing on a regular basis, is that'll guarantee as much as you possibly can in life at anything. If you're showing up all the time and you're doing the thing to like make that result happen and you're learning and adjusting and as things go on, you're probably gonna get that result. If your whole focus on it, your mind's on it, like we're talking about your mind, and you want something to happen, it's very possible that you can conjure up that to happen. If your mind's like, no, I could that can never happen for me, then that guarantees, it almost guarantees that that will never happen for you. So I think it's very important to keep your mind open to the things you want to happen in your life and try to have that positive energy. And you got to push past the pain a little bit, but don't push past the pain as in like, oh, I'm in pain, let me go do a hard workout. No, you need to go backwards with less weight, potentially go in there with a gua sha blade. Talk to Samara about that. There's a lot more to it than just going with a gua sha blade, but I just feel taking it a little easier and starting with some fundamentals, things you would never even think about when you're doing exercises, will be the biggest game changer because your stamina and your strength, everything will go back up. I know another thing Samara's I noticed with a lot of his clients is, say they're like a power lifter and they stopped doing anything with a bar and weren't doing any of the presses or anything. He's worked with them on all of this other stuff, not even related to you think the movement that they'd be doing with the power lift. And then he'll have them go and do a power lift and they're doing more weight than they were doing before, which is kind of fascinating. It's just they're starting to gauge more parts of their body because if you're powerlifting and you aren't pressing your toes down all the way, you probably are losing a little bit more strength than you could. You tie that into like your hips and your lats all the way up, all these other little cues based on the movement. And now you're getting, and you've been training differently. So, and your body's more freed up than it was. You start adding all these things up. Now you throw that into a press you weren't training for, you're now doing that better than you were before. So going back to say you're a basketball player or anything else, you haven't been playing the sport for a year, you took off, now you're back on it, now you feel fresh. I couldn't run well for a couple of years. Like I would kind of run, then get micro injured, and I would try to do safe running at the gym, and that was going a little bit kind of cool for on an elliptical for a while. But then when I had that one little injury that was really bad, I'm like, my legs are too crunchy to even do that. How am I going to do therapy, even like a cardio, if my knees are tight and crunchy and it feels really uncomfortable, worse than when I gotten injured a couple years before. Well, I'm talking about injured on stage versus injured lifting that grill up on the back of the truck, where I felt my leg like almost snap is what it felt like. And I could tell it was inflamed. Oh my gosh. So like I said, I saw Samara, and then we started working. It was about 6 months to feel like, okay, I feel like I can like run outside more now. I feel like I can do that. And then, it's been a couple of years I've been working with them, and everyone's different with where their goals at and where they're at and where they want to be. And that's just even more important, to have someone that can just correct you on a few things so you can get back on your path. Or even if you're on path, he can get those little percentages that make the biggest percent a big difference. Like say you are like a professional, if you can make 1% difference, wouldn't that feel like a 10x gain in some respects? Like if you're maxed out, like say you are at the level, or if you are injured and you feel like you've gone backwards so far, if you can make that little difference, wouldn't that feel like a huge gain? And then you start doing that little consistent, and now it eventually just goes away because you've been working with them for 6 months. You're like, oh, this is interesting and weird, and then you can diagnose yourself more with little spots and take a gua sha blade yourself, or little massage tools, things like that, or go do the movements with yourself. He has an encyclopedia of workouts, and there's infinity workouts you can see online at any time. Go to Instagram, scroll through, it's workouts. But if you aren't doing the micro little cues, the little things to think about, all the way from your toes all the way to the top of your head, and posture, and even where you're putting force in your body, you're not necessarily doing the position to its fullest potential. And if you want the best results, it's like you want to make each rep count, each set count, because you could actually not have to do a gajillion sets and repetitions. I used to do that when I was younger, especially in college. I got pretty beastly. I had probably 12 different workout partners I could probably call up anytime and text, "I'm gonna go to the gym, bro," that kind of thing. Yeah, that's helpful because, I feel part of it, the consistency is everything. If you have someone to work out too, it pushes you a little more, and it keeps it fun, keeps it fresh, right? So it's what I'm getting with Samir. It's one of my buddies I'm getting to work out and do things with. So it's in that same ballpark, but I'm not going to injure myself doing this, and any question you would have, even beyond this, you could ask him. He knows a lot about nutrition, so the food you're putting in your body is just as important, the workout you're getting, or anything else. So he's just a wellness and health. I'll call you a professional, sir. That is what you are. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, man. It's really cool to see, even with the running, you've told me that it's so much easier. You're able to do it with so much more proficiency, more than you did pre-injury.
I'm bouncing.
Yeah, the bounciness is so cool, and you're running with your partner Sophia, and it's just like, you're just on a freaking another level, which is so.
I feel like I'm cheating. I got like miniature trampoline shoes on because I'm bouncing. Yeah. So.
And it's your own feet. You can train that. So that's beautiful. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Absolutely.
And I trust that it's been really insightful for everyone that's listening or watching this on YouTube. This will be on Spotify. It will be on YouTube. Thank you, Matt. We'll do another one as we upgrade more and more and have new insights for people.
I'm excited. That'll be fun. Count me in.
All right, man. Thanks again.
All right. Later, Samir.